Are you in pursuit of the better you? If so, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Becky.
Hello, I'm Faye, and this podcast is all about maximising your potential and living your best life personally and professionally.
We're looking forward to being with you on your pursuit of the better you.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the In Pursuit of the Better You podcast show with me and Becky. Today, Becky's laughing at that. She wasn't expecting. You weren't expecting that.
I wasn't expecting that. That was new.
Today, this episode is inspired by just a comment on a LinkedIn post that I saw yesterday, actually from a lady called Julia, who I work with. It's not her phrase, but she'd written it, and I've heard her say it a few times, so I'm just going to name check her. And it's that concept of how we treat people, and that people can forget what you do and what you say, but actually they'll never forget how you make them feel. And I like that phrase and that saying because feelings stick with us. Our emotions are there. They're really a strong part of us in our body, and we can feel them throughout. And our emotions stick with us. And I'd invite you to have a think about the people in your life that you like and the people who've come and gone from your life, maybe people that you've worked with in the past or people in your family who you're not so keen on, and explore why. And I bet predominantly it's because you have feelings about those people, or those people have created, or you think that they've created feelings in you. And I say think because actually we're responsible for how we feel. And it's not other people that create those responses in our emotions in terms of what they do or say, but it's our response is how we feel about something. And when we think about that, we realise actually that we've got some agency on how we can create or change our lives. We're getting deep now, quite early on in the podcast as well. But we have that agency as to how we can change our minds because we have control. We do have control over how we think, of how we feel. Becky, what are your thoughts on that?
So this is a concept that I share with people often, that idea that, yes, people can try, they can really, really try to make you feel a certain way. But how you ultimately feel is on you. Now, what people, they struggle to often get on board with if someone's been horrible to them. Surely they were trying to make me feel, and that is their fault that I feel this way. So I often flip it on the head and I'll say, very often I'll know about their sort of relationships and things because people tend to tell me about things like that. And I might say to them, what's one of those things that you feel insecure about? And so like if it was me, mine might be the way I look. And it doesn't matter how many times my partner tells me that he thinks I'm beautiful, that I am beautiful. He cannot make me feel like I am beautiful. That's on me. That is on me. So he can't, as much as he really, really, really wants to make me feel good, he can't make me feel good. That's my choice. That's something that is within my power. And so people can sort of see it that way more easily, that, people can't make you feel happy. They can try, but whether or not they're successful is up to you. And if you kind of accept one, you need to accept it the other way as well. And so people find it that it's both empowering, but also quite a confronting concept. That, it's you that has allowed yourself to feel this way. And that doesn't excuse other people's behaviour, by the way. That's not then saying, you can just run around being a bumhole. And it doesn't really matter because it's up to other people how they decide they're going to feel about you acting like a bumhole. No, of course not. Let's not approach everyone in the world like that. But it is that empowering thing of, am I gonna give you that power to make me feel bad? No, it might be really difficult for you to stay in that of that place of not feeling hurt and upset. But that's entirely up to you. And what I will say is, by the way, obviously this is a principle that I have known about, that I try and put into practice and have done for many years now. But as a human being, I often fall short. And then I get really cross with myself that I have let myself, feel like that. So yeah, it's not a, I'm not standing here from a place of, righteousness and always getting that right, is what I'm trying to demonstrate.
Bless you, Becky. I don't think any of us stand in that place. And if we did, the world would be a very, very, very different place. But it brings to my attention a book that I'd like to say I'm currently reading. I'm not, because I haven't opened my Kindle for so long. I probably need to recharge it. But I read a book a number of years ago called The Inside Out Revolution by Michael Neill, and it had a really profound effect on me. I cited it as one of the best books I've ever read. And more than a few weeks ago, I decided to revisit that book because I thought, is it? I've read a lot of books over the last few years. Is it still one of the best books I've ever read? Or is it because I read it at a point in time when I needed it? Because I think that can often happen, can't it? And so I started reading it again. And as far as I've got, which I'm probably about a quarter of the way through, I'm still loving it. I do love it. But it's exactly on this point that we think we live our lives from the outside in, but we don't. We live our lives from the inside out. As human beings, our brain has, it talks about 3 principles that Sydney Banks, I think, came up with. I can't really remember. That of mind, consciousness, and thought. But that's maybe a podcast for another day. But it's really looking at how we think, and that we all think as human beings. We know that we all think, but we all have so many thoughts streaming through our brain that our brain sort of categorizes them and tries to sort them out, orders them. But we can get hung up on a certain types of thoughts. And that whole thing about what you were talking about, Becky, is no matter how many times your partner tells you you're beautiful, because you have the power to think, your thoughts are there telling you that you're not. I mean, she is, right? But your thoughts are there telling you that you're not, or whatever the subject is, they're telling you a different thing. And we pay attention to those thoughts. And those thoughts will just come back tomorrow, and they'll come back the next day. They were here yesterday, and they were here the day before. But what are those thoughts, and what are they based on? They are just thoughts. And we actually have the power to change our thinking. We can change those thoughts by a lot of practice, but by saying to those thoughts, I don't actually believe you. I don't think that anymore. Actually, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm seeing that I'm a beautiful human being. I'm looking at my reflection and I'm seeing that I'm beautiful, but also I know that I do beautiful things, and that makes me beautiful too. And so whatever you're thinking, you have the power to change that. But it does take effort. It takes consistency. And commitment. It takes commitment. For example, I will tell you that I don't like big birthdays. I've just had a big birthday, and I don't really like the run up to big birthdays. Don't know what it is. I don't know where it comes from. But this year, I've really, really tried to change my thinking around this. But as you keep having big birthdays, they kind of get worse because the number gets bigger. So my thinking around it kind of gets worse because I don't want to get older. But then I don't want to necessarily stay young either. And I know it's a privilege and all of this. I've really tried to change my thinking around it. And I think I have a little bit. But I definitely haven't just decided, it's not that positive, toxic positivity, Pollyanna thing that we've talked about on the podcast before. I haven't just been able to flip it. I can think differently about it. I can think quite rationally about it. But still my emotion is there. The feeling that I have about it is what I put on it myself. And I need to work harder for my next big birthday. I've got a few years to do it. I've got a few years to do the work. And it will be interesting to see. I can use this as a bit of an experiment, but it will be interesting to see. But the weight of relief that I had getting to the day of the birthday, all of a sudden, those thoughts and feelings that I'd had about it disappeared completely. I'm there. I'm okay. It's fine. But it does take commitment and consistency to change our feelings and live from that inside out. But we can do it.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're right. It is. And it comes from, it has to start with our favourite thing that we always go back to, because it does all seem to link back to there. It's that self-awareness, isn't it? So actually being aware of those thoughts in the first place, those things that are then driving your feelings and your actions. So it always seems to link back to self-awareness, doesn't it? As you were talking, Faye, and you said about the Inside Out Revolution, I was reminded of the film, and I'm not going to ask if you've seen it, because chances are you haven't. If you've listened to the podcast for a while now, you will know that Faye and films are not best friends. She is well known for falling asleep during a film. But plus, I think it's a Pixar rather than a Disney, or it could be a Disney Pixar. It's called Inside Out.
I've seen it.
Oh, give over.
But
have you?
I've seen it, and I have slept through it too a number of times, because I had it on DVD for my son, and I have seen it. And whilst I'm talking, I'm just going to tell you a little bit more. I love, at the end of our DVD, I don't know if you've seen this at the end, there's a beautiful song about a volcano.
Oh, I'm
and
not
it's
sure.
called I Laugh at You. Anyway, I loved it just for that. Anyway, carry on.
But it's a cracking film, not only for helping children understand what it is that's going on in their brains and how they think and how they feel, but also for us as adults, it's a lovely little sort of gentle route into psychology and into understanding what it is that goes on. And I won't say too much about it, but it basically focuses. It's inside a little girl's brain. And it's like the different emotions are at the control board of her brain. And you've got Joy, who's running around trying to make everything, everyone happy. And you've got sadness, and Joy is actively trying to keep sadness away. And then you've got fear and anger and disgust. And, they're all kind of vying. And there's a lovely little thing in there about how things go to core memories and then how things are built on our core memories. And that's sort of, we're not necessarily talking about just core memories here, but that's a great example of how, because something has happened previously, we link it then back to those old scenarios, which then sort of helps to continue this cycle of how we feel in a certain situation or how we feel around certain people. So if you at all like animated films, then I would highly recommend Inside Out as a little watch, because it's a lovely film, and by the sounds of it, it's got a great little song at the end too.
Yeah, it's not part of the film; it's a separate thing. But I used to like when my son decided that he wanted to watch that film, because I knew we'd get to the end and I could see the volcano. I Laugh at You. I'll find it. I know it's on YouTube. I'll find it for you, Becky, and I'll send it to you.
Thanks.
But yeah, no, it's a brilliant film for explaining how we attach to those feelings and what is going on, what emotions are coming up and directing our life. But it's so worth remembering that it's not happening to us. We're allowing it to happen, and we can change that. So if you've got somebody in your life and they make you feel a certain way, and there'll probably be plenty of people who make you feel a certain way, make sure you're feeling a way that feels good for you. It doesn't mean to say that we have to like everybody or we have to excuse their behaviour. We are all very responsible for how we are putting ourselves out in the world and what people do think of us. But as well, just know that if somebody makes you feel a certain way, you can explore that. You can explore your thoughts and feelings, and you can decide, do I want to feel this way or don't I? We can still dislike somebody without them, without that big emotional response that we might get. That emotional response we can control. And so we'll leave you with that thought, just notice it. As Becky said, being self-aware. There's one thing knowing what self-awareness is and actually being self-aware. And to be self-aware, you have to act on it. You have to make change. But just notice what comes up for you and just ask yourself that question. Do I want to feel this way? And if you don't, what can you do to change it? Thank you for listening to In Pursuit of the Better You. If you'd like to know more, you can see Becky at questforest.co.uk and Faye at fayeblakey.com.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and thank you to Wahoo Media for our production.
And we'll see you again on the next leg of your pursuit.